Alright, we're gonna watch a video. What's this video called? Nintendo doesn't care anymore. Legend ZA is the proof. Now, I've played Legend ZA, and I've heard a lot of bad things about the game, or just people not liking it, and I want to know why. Why is it bad? What makes it bad? I played it, yes, but I wouldn't necessarily deem something as bad. I will say the price is a little too much, but I feel like $70 is becoming more of the norm in games, and not like necessarily that's not necessarily on Nintendo's fault, but that's gonna be more of the norm of games. So I do believe it is a little expensive, and I believe the DLC coming out before the game is even like released is a little stupid. But other than that, I don't see a real thing that can be really, oh, this game is the worst Pokemon game ever. Like, I don't know. I want to hear some arguments about that. Only thing I really don't care to hear about is the buildings. I really don't care for the building. Like, everyone's making a big meme about the buildings, and I don't get it. But anyway, enough of the yapping. Let's get into what this guy has to say.
Pokemon Legends ZA is almost downright offensive, and it proves that Nintendo thinks that we're dumb and we deserve nothing because we will lap up any slop that they will serve. And they're right, because the game has sold over 6 million copies in its first week. This game that looks like it's a PS2 game.
Hey, and it's not even Christmas yet. That's when Christmas pulls up.
And that has innovations that people are praising in the game as if they were revolutionary, and I guess they are because they're for Pokemon, that are basically dumbed down systems from other games, including games Nintendo themselves have made before. And thanks to leaks, we know that...
Okay, I think another thing people need to get the difference of is it's not Nintendo, it's Game Freak. Let's get that right. Game Freak is the one who makes Pokemon, not Nintendo.
They are just putting in the bare minimum, that they do not care what happens because since it has the Pokemon name on it, it will print money. The alleged budget for
my thing with the windows and shit, do you want a unique custom design window for every single window? Is that what you guys want? Like, what I don't get the
Pokemon Legends ZA is around $13 million. Some other leaks I've seen claim as high as $20 million. But stop and think about it. How is that the budget for the latest game in the series with most fans technically in the world, with the highest valued IP on the planet? To put that into a different context, the game needed to sell 200,000 copies in order to break even. But no, it's Pokemon. It sold 6 million. And that's the thing, isn't it? You can put Pokemon on pretty much anything and you can guarantee a profit, but if on top of that you can make the budget as low as possible, minimum effort, minimum development time.
Okay, get into why. I'm sick of niggas who just sit here and be like, oh, this game sucks, this is bad, I hate this. But don't ever explain why. Like, get into it, bro.
Skeleton Crew working on the game. Put it out and have it be the talk of the town and the biggest success just because it's Pokemon. Well, I guess you do that because why would we deserve better? If only it stopped there. Some of those leaks are already talking about the DLC that they announced for the game before the game came out. DLC that looks to include over 150 Pokemon and about 40 to 50 added Mega Evolutions, including a ton of never-before-seen new ones, as well as ridiculous numbers I've seen oscillating out there for the number of side missions and story missions included in that $30 DLC that, given that it was announced well before launch, and given that the DLC contains so much, to put it into perspective, the base game has around 230 Pokemon and the DLC will have 150 new ones added. I mean, how does this not scream cut content? And do you know what's even worse? There's tons of people, friends of mine, straight up saying that, well, the bones of ZA are pretty decent, so they think that with the DLC, it'll turn out to be a great game. So I'm sorry, let me get this straight. Not only are people okay that we've reached the point that we buy unfinished games willingly and we expect them to be unfinished, but we are thankful that we're buying an unfinished game and looking forward to spending $30 more for a final price of $90 in order to
I don't necessarily believe that, like, just because it's DLC that it was cut content. You know, because from what we've seen of the Mega Dimension DLC, it has something to do with Hoompa. Do y'all really think Hoompa has any involvement in what happened in the main story of ZA? I don't think so. Considering they didn't even put any other legendary in the game, in the main story aside from Zygarde. So at most, Hoompa would have been like a side quest. At most. So I highly doubt I'm not gonna say it wasn't cut content or it was supposed to be in the game before, but like that's a huge assumption.
hopefully get a finished and good game.
I mean, the whole finish, like the game. Only reason I said that is because he's making it seem like the DLC makes it so that the game wasn't finished, and they released it before it was finished. I personally don't believe that.
And
Just based off what I've
people
seen
say
in the
that
game.
Legend ZA is great because of those things that it does for Pokemon.
He still hasn't gone into like a specific reason why the game is bad. He's sitting here talking about, oh, his Pokemon is gonna sell all DLC. Get into why you believe it's bad.
How we've reached this state of conformity, how we are willing to accept garbage, I don't know, man. But I think that we as customers and Pokemon fans, Pokemon as an IP,
All right, until he gets into why he thinks this game is bad, or putting it in 2 times speed. Because, bro,
considering how valuable it is, deserves better. But fine, how bad is it and like how greedy is all of it? Well, I'm going to talk you through the good of the game, the bad of the game, and the downright atrocious, and why I find what Nintendo is doing
Get
just
into it,
straight up
man.
offensive. Before we do that though, hi, I'm Muggin. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're not new here, welcome.
There you
We're competing
go,
against
man.
AI-generated anything at this point. And if you like the way that they cover video games,
I don't. So far, no. He's been sitting here yapping about things instead of yapping about why he didn't like the game. Come on, get into it.
Pokemon Legends ZA didn't scare you. They really should. You see, the creature collecting genre is incredibly popular and successful and has demonstrated to be so over a very long period of time. This isn't a 90s fad or a 2000s fad. This might be a fad for forever. This is just an incredibly popular genre. And we keep seeing it time and time again. The continued success of Pokemon throughout the years proves it as much. But I do want to point out Palworld. Palworld sold over 8 million copies in 6 days, meaning that it technically outperformed Pokemon Legends ZA, by the way. But as of about a month ago, it's passed over 25 million in sales. And while I don't agree with a lot of people that Palworld is just some crappy Pokemon knockoff, in my opinion, it does some really interesting things with the concept of creature collecting by making you do more with your creatures than just turn-based battles. But even if you want to consider it a Pokemon knockoff, damn, is that a successful Pokemon knockoff? When knockoffs are this successful, the real deal must be worth gold. And it is. Pokemon is currently considered the most valuable intellectual property in the world because it prints money not just on the video games that are used to introduce new regions and new Pokemon and all that, but through everything else. From merchandising to collaborations to the trading card game to, of course, the video game. And when you have a money printer, you want it all for yourself. You don't want anybody else to try and compete with it. Be they the surprisingly very, very successful Digimon game that came out this year, Palworld, or anything else that could threaten it. Which is why Nintendo has been so litigious with everything regarding Pokemon. This is why they are currently on their patenting spree and with their lawsuit against Palworld for patent infringement on mechanics, game mechanics, whatever that make no sense. You can watch some other videos I've done diving deep into the legalities of that. But they're doing everything they can to protect their golden goose, except actually put effort into making their games good. And this is really important. If
Okay, can we get into the game? I don't care about their legal problems that they're trying to put out on other companies. I don't care. Talking about the game. Let's get into the game.
they're the only ones who can make Pokemon-style games. They don't have to make them good. They don't have to evolve. They don't have to do anything. They can just put Pokemon on the box of anything and somehow sell it. If you thought people lost their mind,
Because niggas were saying this game was trash the first trailer they saw. I still have yet to hear a reason why.
with things like Nintendo and the value of its things just for being Nintendo, the goddamn alarm clock, that's nothing compared to Pokemon. And because it's clear that this is their strategy, they've done it again. A tiny budget for the second entry in the Legend series, which by the way, I'm on the record multiple times saying that Pokemon Legends Arceus is my favorite Pokemon game, and I think that still stands. But Pokemon game, as we're about to see, is a really big qualifier. But the point I'm reaching here is that all of this strategy of keeping Pokemon in its own bubble, of limiting the competition that is possible in the world of creature collecting, it's all because it is a functional strategy to keep the expectations of people incredibly low and still somehow disappoint. This is basically the closest you can get to Stockholm Syndrome in gaming, and I think Pokemon ZA is the best example for it. So I've been playing quite a lot of the game, and the phenomenon that I'm going to describe is something that I have suffered as well. You're playing through it, and you get used to the way that it looks, and the things that it does, and the terrible pacing, and the way that it does things, and you start looking for the positives, and suddenly you're having a good time. You're like, oh, this is fun, look at the Pokemon, there's Pokemon there. And it's only until you stop to think about it for just like 5 seconds that you realize what you're playing and what you were thinking of praising. Which, don't get me wrong, you can have fun with things that don't deserve praise. You can have as much fun as you want in life. I really don't think that you should ever play a video game looking to not have fun. But goddamn, do we give it passes and even allow people to praise this series for things that would never fly anywhere else? The big additions to Pokemon Legends ZA is the fact that it has a interconnected open world within Lumio City, playing like the previous Legends game where you get to run around with your character, interact with things, and mostly throw Pokeballs and catch a ton of different Pokemon. Its biggest innovation is its action combat system that is real time and where positioning actually matters. You can dodge attacks, enemies can dodge yours, and all of your different abilities are on cooldown, so you can rotate through them very quickly, keeping the overall pacing of combat much higher and, in my opinion, very fun, much more fun than the standard turn-based approach. However, as evidenced by the developers that worked on this game and its shoestring budget, at least shoestring for Pokemon, this is just Xenoblade Chronicles. This is just Monolith Soft, just
So we just got on them for trying to take away the creature catching aspect from other games, and then sit here and try to say this is just like a different game. What the fuck? Come on, bro.
as they did with Arceus, injecting a bit of their absolute genius and their expertise in order to make a unique combat system, but in this case, an incredibly dumbed-down version of the things that you can find in, for example, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, or even the recently re-released Xenoblade Chronicles X. Is the combat system in ZA good then? Yes, especially when compared to the same old turn-based combat from before. It is considerably better than that. But is it good compared to Xenoblade Chronicles 3?
No, because it's not.
Oh, it's garbage. It's very bad. It's boring and limited,
Bro.
and it's only held up by the charm of the Pokemon and the world that it's in. And because in this
Hold on, does Xenoblade, are they made by the same people who make? If they're not, then it's horrible. Come on, lock in, bro. Just say I don't like the combat system. What company? I'm not talking.
franchise, we are used to getting nothing, so when we get something, we're supposed to clap. That interconnected open world of Lumiose, it looks the way it looks, man. This footage is from Switch 2. Thankfully, because it's on Switch 2, you get to witness it at a higher resolution and at a smooth 60 frames per
Again, I don't know what's wrong with this. You know? I'm trying to. Who cares about Xenoblade? Yeah, I don't know what's like. Obviously, this is the video because we're not at fucking. I don't know what's on with the internet. But like,
second, because
this
if you were playing
don't
on the
look
OG
that
Switch,
bad.
you couldn't see it that way. You'd have to endure this way more blurry and at a wonderful 30 frames per second. That's just because the Switch is old. Sure, let me say this again. This year, in March, Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition came out on the Nintendo Switch, and it looks like this. What? What do you mean? How is this a first-party Nintendo game in their best-selling, most valuable IP? Oh, well, it's because Nintendo isn't in charge of doing it. It's a collaboration between Nintendo and some of their studios, including, as I just mentioned, Monolith Soft and Game Freak, because Game Freak are the ones that are just coasting by and
Okay,
have
so
never
Game
done
Freak
anything
is a
decent
part
with
of
their lives
Nintendo.
beyond
Thank
creating
you for
Pokemon. Well,
answering
sure, that's why they announced Beast of Reincarnation, a new Game Freak game that looks like this. Sure, these are the reasons that we get boxy streets with flat textures, no windows, and the windows that there are repeating throughout everything. This is why the geometry of what are supposed to be parks look like they were taken straight out of a PlayStation 2 game. This is why we somehow have cutscenes where everybody's mouths are flapping and everybody's moving around and doing stuff, but there's no actual voices, so you just have to imagine, making it look honestly quite ridiculous. Sure, there's some cool.
Yeah, that is okay. There, here we go. Like there, you know, before when he was talking about the game feels real, like the pacing. I sat there and said to myself sometimes too. I'm like, some of these moments, like storyline things that are going on, feel like filler arcs. You know what I'm saying? Things are just happening and there's not really story going on. The rank system usually skips like 15 ranks mid story. And I was saying, I'm like, I think at least for like major scenes, like main mission scenes, they need to be voice acting. I feel like we're at a point where we need voice acting. You know what I'm saying? So here we go. Actual good criticism for once.
Stuff here. They're expanding on systems that were there before with Legends Arceus. You could easily praise them for the fact that in the battle zones, you get to stealth around and collect little bonus missions that you have to accomplish by battling a bunch of trainers in a row and getting bonus points for that. But then at the same time, that is kind of the bare minimum of something interesting that you could do with an RPG combat system, is add little mini games on top of it to keep people entertained by
Sure,
trying
what?
to use different Pokemon, because there is no actual depth to a lot of the system otherwise. You can also say that it's interesting that you can go to the different wild zones and battle the alpha Pokemon that return from Arceus, and that it's interesting how now you can fight like 7 different Pokemon at once, and AoE attacks matter, and you can place giant fields on the battlefield, and it's all very dynamic. But at the same time, that isn't anything special compared to pretty much any other RPG. This isn't the first time you get to fight a lot of different enemies in one area in an RPG. This is just the first time you get to do it in Pokemon. Oh wow, AoE attacks now actually serve a purpose.
Are we talking about games as a whole or just as a Pokemon game? Because I feel like come on, bro. It's the first time Pokemon's experimenting with something like this, and instead of giving them praise or at least a little bit better criticism, you're literally just like shitting on the whole thing. Because like obviously it's not gonna be good as other fucking RPGs. Come on now, it's their first time trying something like this. What are we on about?
Beyond team battles. Welcome to the 21st century, I guess. A lot of that is interesting. The potential to keep combat.
And he acts like it was bad. It wasn't even that bad, bro. It like for real. And I want him to get more into this game specifically. Not talking about other genres, other games, other companies making this like this game.
and your
Or at least this game compared to other Pokemon games. Like,
going by just taking
come on.
all of the Pokemon in a wild zone at the same time. There's some curious stuff here. And when it comes to the world design, specifically some of the little puzzles that exist in moving throughout the zone, there's some of the more Metroidvania-like elements of having different Pokemon to use different things in the terrain and advance through it, are not first-time game designer type of stuff. There's undeniably some clever level design and some interesting use of the things available, even if they have, pretty much none of it.
Yeah,
And
the
to be honest,
parkour
despite
was
the pacing of the game,
fine.
especially at the start being just the worst. One of the worst. And I know Pokemon isn't like praised for having good pacing, especially at the start of the games, but this one is rough, man. Once things get going, it's functional for a Pokemon game. Instead of the boss battles that we had in Legends Arceus, we now have the Mega Evolution battles that take place against rogue Mega Evolved Pokemon, where you get transported to a magical arena and you fight normally with a partner, what is essentially a raid boss, even down to some of the raid mechanics. Very light ones, very appropriate ones for anybody of any age to understand, but still something slightly new. The Pokemon have big attacks, and a lot of the time they're focusing you, the trainer, not your Pokemon, and you have to dodge out of the way and use your Pokemon effectively to progress through the raid mechanics and power
What's wrong with
and
this?
that can be fun, if reminiscent a bit of Pal World. Look at that, huh? So once again, this mechanic, these battles can be very fun, even though they are the least Pokemon-like thing in the whole game, but they're really good for a Pokemon game. They're not really good for games in general. The one thing that I can't just directly praise without that very qualifying statement is that I like the writing here. I think it's very self-aware and oftentimes funny, as in honestly pretty funny in a way that you wouldn't expect on like such a big media property. It shoots its shot with some of its jokes is what I'm saying, and whether they land or not is a different thing than admiring the fact that they did put that charm and personality into it, which, hey, I like some of the writing in this game. That's what I can say that's just purely good, and then pretty much everything else is bad. That and the things that they have directly stolen from the Xenoblade series and Monolith Soft's efforts. So like the way that it keeps moving throughout the city, engaging, there's never really a moment of just holding the stick forward to traverse the city. There's always something that you can kind of go out of your way and collect, and that's just very much Xenoblade level design. But again, I'd rather just play Xenoblade. If I were interested in having good game mechanics to follow and enjoy, that's there. So then what's downright bad? And pretty much everything else, but only in context. The menu,
Tell us!
moves, how quickly you can give Pokemon different held items, all of these things, they've been streamlined and they're better and there's quality of life in them that should have been there.
Wait, what?
The menu is the ability to switch out your moves, how quickly you can give Pokemon different held items, all of these things, they've been streamlined and they're better and there's quality of life in them that should have been there about 15 years ago. Except
You've been able to do this for a minute, right? You've been able to switch your Pokemon's moves since the start. What are we talking about? And then what do you say? Let's see. Now we're getting to something. Let's get back to the normal speed. What did he say?
Switch out your moves, how quickly you can give Pokemon different held items, all of these things, they've been streamlined.
Has it really took you that long to put held items on your Pokemon? Is it really that hard for you to go to the move reminder or move learner to put moves on your Pokemon? Like, come on now. I felt like what are we talking about, right?
And they're better and there's quality of life in them that should have been there about 15 years ago.
Been there
Except that since they're here now and Pokemon wants to exist in its own bubble where it can only be compared to itself, we're supposed to say, wow, what an evolution. Lumio City.
No one was talking about moves or items ever. No one was complaining about moves or items ever. I'd say the animations, but every move in this game has a unique animation.
Sure, it's interesting to explore, but you can tell from just watching my gameplay that the visual diversity that is here and the way that it contextualizes the Pokemon is not particularly interesting. There are some very standout features, things like the sewers I think are really cool because it's like an actual dungeon in a Pokemon game that's quite interesting, but most of what's going on here is not very visually appealing, and by not very, I mean oftentimes looks incredibly ugly, and that's on the Switch 2, which is a very expensive new piece of hardware. Its gameplay is an evolution for the series, not for video game. It's an evolution for
the series. What are we talking about?
But that shouldn't be what we expect, and we shouldn't expect games on shoestring budgets that look this way. We should expect things that are grander in scale, that have bigger changes, and that are even, they call me crazy, at the forefront of evolution of the creature.
So you're telling me every game that comes out should be the best game ever at everything? Because he said it. He said it, right? Let me hear him again.
Not very, I mean oftentimes looks incredibly ugly, and that's on the Switch 2, which is a very expensive new piece of hardware. Its gameplay is an evolution for the series, not for video game. It's an
You hear that? Its entry is a
new piece of hardware. Its gameplay is an evolution for the series, not for video games.
Not for video games. So the first time you try something new in your game, it has to be evolutionary to video games, not the series.
For what you would expect from Pokemon, but that shouldn't be what we expect. And we shouldn't expect games on shoestring budgets that look this way. We should expect things that are grander in scale, that have bigger changes, and that are even, they call me crazy, at the forefront of evolution of the creature collecting genre, that are actually making strides into giving people what they want. But before we talk about what people want,
I've yet to hear something within this game specifically, and he's just been talking about other games. Like, compare the other games this, other games that. Xenoblade has this, Pokemon has that.
Reiterate,
There's never been anything
atrocious. The fact that this game is $60 on Switch 2 and it feels like there is cut content here that has been jammed into its $30 DLC expansion.
The DLC ain't even out. How can you say that?
That you can buy February of next year. Man, what a short development time on that. Definitely nothing suspicious there. In order to get something that is only innovative by the metric of Pokemon and that feels as shoestring as it does at times, that's not good. That's not a good value proposal. You have to go for it and it'll sell gangbusters if you like Pokemon. Because there's nothing else that you can do if you like Pokemon except play the Pokemon game. I just find it incredibly offensive that this is what they choose to make. This is the budget they choose to allocate, and they think this is okay to represent the largest intellectual property in the world.
Right. We're gonna go back to 2 times speed because I thought you were gonna start talking about the actual game itself, but nah.
And their strategy of making people say thank you for the tiniest new innovation works. To me, that sort of behavior and now the example of greed with the contents that are in this game versus what is coming out in its DLC, it just proves that they're milking Pokemon for every cent that it's worth without actually giving a damn on making the series better. And to me, that is highly disrespectful to Pokemon and to customers. They're basically trying to train their fans into expecting the worst, and they have. I just demonstrated it in this very video. I don't know if you noticed that I said that the sewers in the game are interesting because they feel like a traditional RPG dungeon. Something that you explore and you solve some puzzles in different rooms, you have different combat encounters that are unique and different, and then you reach the end and get some rewards, get some loot, or progress the story. And I praised it because in my head I kept imagining, man, what if this sort of thing were implemented in the mainline Pokemon series, and instead of just exploring sewers, we got a bunch of different locations and interesting things to do. Imagine.
Doesn't this happen in Mystery Dungeon? Pokemon's not a fucking dungeon crawler, bro. You know, like, it's not. Come on.
The same setup with the Lavender Town Tower. And now we're talking about some Demon King's Labyrinth level stuff. And that would be so cool to see in the game. And then I stop and remember that I've played things like Romancing Saga Revenge of the Seven. I've played the Octopath Travelers of the world. I've played Metaphor ReFantazio. If you want to go even way back, I played Dragon Quest XI. And those games all do what I'm asking Pokemon to do. And they do it at a degree that I'm.
You see how those are dungeon crawler-esque games? Those are actual RPG, MMO type games? What are we talking about, bro?
Pretty sure Pokemon won't reach until maybe 2035.
There are so many.
Look, I understand what he's trying to say, but that's not Pokemon. And for this to be a side game, this ain't even
know what their fans actually want. So look, let me get something important out of the way. People are going to say that they don't give them big budgets because they still sell. And that's correct. They don't give them big budgets because why do that when you can maximize profit margin? Sure, if you put in a big budget and make the best Pokemon game ever, it'll probably sell a lot more. But then you're setting up expectations for the future, and who wants to do that? But I know that some other people are going to say that the reason that they don't do more with Pokemon is because they don't want to toy around with a formula that works, and that potentially they could break that formula. I think that is incredibly stupid because the Pokemon Company, Game Freak, Nintendo, they know exactly what people want because they're the ones who told us what we want. And they have plenty of examples of other games, including stuff like Palworld, showing them that people want it. People want to explore the world of Pokemon. They want to spend time with their creatures. They want to use their creatures for something beyond battling. They want to build their cozy homes and decorate and go out there and catch legendary Pokemon and really get invested into each of them and have them do unique things with the environment or work at your home base or whatever it is. People want the Ash Ketchum adventure. They want to actually go out there and
do the same shit.
Live in a world of Pokemon. It's what they showed us, and they have in all of the media surrounding Pokemon for years and years and years, and they don't give that to us. And when something else like Palworld comes along and shows us a glimpse of that, they go and sue them as hard as they can. If they know what we want, and every time they take a little baby step forward, everybody claps, why can't they just take a normal-sized step forward? And sure, it's because they don't want to set expectations, and they'd rather everybody absolutely hate everything that's going on with Pokemon. I get it, but it's still sad. Recent leaks indicate that there is a new Pokemon project on the way that is supposed to take place across 4 entire regions of the Pokemon world, and somehow they are aiming for it to actually look good. I'm not going to put up the image. That's quite ridiculous of, what they're aiming for versus what they have in-house at the moment, because that was leaked, and I'm not doing it on the off chance that because of that tiny thing this video gets taken down. But it doesn't look great, but at least it's an inkling that they're trying to do what they've been selling us forever. If there's one more positive thing that I can say about Pokemon Legends EA is that I think that what they've achieved on this budget is quite impressive. Again, for the budget and for a Pokemon game. But the customer isn't supposed to care about the budget.
Hey, bro, there's like 2-3 minutes left of this video, bro. I'll turn this shit off. You know, when I first clicked on this video, I said I want to hear what people don't specifically like about this game. This game, not Xenoblade, how it compares to Palworld. Why isn't Nintendo doing this? I wanted to hear why this game was bad. This guy clearly didn't. Look, no disrespect, bro. Way more viewers, way more subscribers than me. You know, obviously, do your thing, grind on it. I don't hate you, but I'm just saying I want to hear what's wrong specifically with this game and not just gaming as a whole and putting this game in and seeing where it stacks up. I'm not trying to hear that. I'm trying to hear what's wrong with this game specifically. That's what people actually want to hear, not about how this compares to other games. So respect. If fuck, I don't get views. If anyone ever finished watching this video, please comment down below what you guys have problems with in this game. Please give me something better than the windows and the buildings. Please give me something better than that. Well, I guess with that, I'm gonna get out of here. You have a nice day. Peace.